Hello, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be discussing about what to make of the November roster. So let's get ready with the video. This roster is for the last camp of the 2025 calendar year. So this is basically the last camp before the most important year in US soccer history. And after this camp, there's only going to be like two more camps, or even just one, because it's only the March camp and those two friendlies before the World Cup, which is during the summer. So this is basically the second to last camp before the summer of 2026, which is just crazy to think about. So today we're going to be discussing about this roster that will be used during this camp for two friendly matches against Paraguay and Uruguay, two CONMEBOL teams, two South American teams, one of the best soccer regions in the world, might even be the best, depends on who you ask, if it's between South America or Europe. So today we're going to be discussing about this roster, so let's get right into the video. Let's start off in goal with the keepers, and Poch brought four goalkeepers. Starting off first with Matt Freese, of course he has to be here. He is the starter, and I think he'll be starting during the summer of 2026, barring any poor run of form or barring any injury. He should be the starter in goal for the USMNT. Has not been bad so far for the national team outside of a few mistakes. Roman Celentano, Jonathan Klinsmann, and Patrick Schulte are the other three options. Surprised that there's no Matt Turner here. I think that he would have been a better option than these three keepers. He surely has more experience. I know anybody can say that maybe he's played very poorly for the US, but he is the most experienced goalkeeper that we have in the moment that has the enough quality to play on this team. So he should be here at least as the third option or second option. So I do not know why Poch doesn't bring him. Heard right now that he's training right now with Crystal Palace. Like, if I'd rather prefer see Matt Turner just be on this roster rather than just like hear about him just training with Crystal Palace for some reason. Solentano and Schulte, pretty decent MLS goalkeepers, pretty mid. Schulte is pretty inconsistent in MLS. Don't know why he's here. Klinsmann has had a pretty decent season over there in Serie B with Cesena. Hopefully we'll get to see him sometime soon, but I doubt it with Matt Freese just locking in that position and just him having to play as many minutes as possible just to get accustomed to the US. So I think it's just Matt Freese, and the other three guys are trying to fight for those 2 and 3 spots. Now let's go with the center backs, and the big miss here is going to have to be Chris Richards. Chris Richards will have to miss this camp due to a cap issue, but Crystal Palace seems to like play him almost every single game and start him and play him almost 90 minutes every single game. Think this is a lot of BS from Crystal Palace, but I mean, if the guy has been playing almost every single game with the US since the summer, so I can get it. I can live with just letting him rest for about 2 weeks. But two games against Paraguay and Uruguay would have been a good test for Chris Richards. But who has Poch brought in his place? Let's see the five center backs that Poch has brought over for this camp. Tim Ream, I think out of all these center backs, Tim Ream would be a locked in starter. Poch seems to like him, so I think he'll be locked in as that left center back. Mark McKenzie, this is a huge opportunity for him to play as that middle center back, and if he does play well during both of these games, then there's an argument that he can play Chris Richards as our right center back, and so instead of playing him as a middle center back, and I think that's a better position for Chris Richards because that is the position he plays for Crystal Palace, and he doesn't have to cover for everybody, and also he doesn't get to be as much involved with the build out. So I do think if he does play well, Mark McKenzie, I think there's a good argument to have that he can slide Chris Richards over as that right center back. Austin Trusty, he looks like he's going to be in for both club and country with Cameron Carter Vickers out, so this is a good opportunity for him. Miles Robinson from FC Cincinnati, don't rate the guy, but Poch seems to like him to bring him almost every single camp. I do not understand. The guy was poor last camp, especially in that Australia game. Like he got beat in almost every single 1v1, and he almost gave Australia a penalty. Don't understand why Poch keeps on bringing him. The guy is a mid MLS center back. Joe Scally, although he's naturally a fullback, I do think he'll be playing as a center back during this camp for one reason. Mostly because in the previous system, When he played as a right back, he would often slide in as that right center back when the USMT was building out of the back. And considering that our center back options are not very good, I do think he'll be playing as a center back during this camp. And I do hope Poch does give him minutes. He's one of our better defenders that we have currently. And another big miss will have to be Noah Kai Banks. I do not understand why Poch leaves this guy out, because you cannot tell me that our center back pool is that good that you leave a Bundesliga starter back at home. And many people will say, but he played poorly against RB Leipzig. But tell me, how many of these center backs would actually have a good game against RB Leipzig outside of Joe Scally? Tell me. Not a single one. Austin Trusty lost to a Danish team during the week. And you're not telling me that our center back pool is that good that you're leaving a Bundesliga starter back at home. And Noah Kai Banks had a good game against Borussia Dortmund, against Wolfsburg. I do not understand why you don't bring him. He's one of our most talented center backs that we have, and he's a center back with a high ceiling. And I do assure you, he'll be playing at a Chris Richards level 5 or 6 years from now. Now let's go with the fullbacks. And starting off first with Sergio Dest, very excited to see this guy with this new system with the USMNT, because with less defensive responsibility, as we saw in the few minutes he played against Japan, Sergio Dest is going to be like, he's going to be that much better on offense for the US, like especially in transition. In those few minutes I saw of him against Japan, I was impressed of what I saw from Sergio Dest, especially on transition. So I'm excited for Sergio Dest in this new system. Joe's token, I think Pot should at least give him a look. I know the guy didn't play much during the Gold Cup, but not right now. The guy's playing in a back three system, and he's playing as an advanced fullback, and he's one of our better crossers of the ball. So I do think Pot should at least give him a look. I know Bundesliga 2 is probably not the best level. I think it's even worse than MLS, but like, you cannot tell me that he's that much worse than Max Arston. Like, you cannot be serious. And talking about Max Arston is back here with the US. Not not happy at all with this. Like, I think if I would have been Poch, I would have brought somebody like Christopher Lund, who's getting minutes in the Bundesliga and also as a left wing back. So I do not understand why Max Arston is here again. Alex Freeman, there's also some possibility that we would get to see him as a center back, maybe switch positions with Joe Scally throughout the game. Who knows what Poch is thinking right now? But right now he seems like he's gonna be playing as that right wing back. But he can also play center back, as we saw Poch playing center back for a few minutes in the other camp. Two big misses here due to injury are A-Rob and Tim Weah. A-Rob, well, he looks like he's gonna be out for some time, or like a couple of weeks. And Tim Weah, he's gonna be have to miss this. Is gonna have to miss this FIFA window, unfortunately, because of he has like an minor injury for right now during the moment. So he's gonna be a big miss, because I liked what I saw of him last camp. Now let's go with the midfielders. And over here, there's some question marks regarding who Poch has selected for this position. Starting off first with Tyler Adams, the guy has had a great season for Bournemouth. Bournemouth right now are competing for a Champions League spot. I didn't think Bournemouth were going to have this type of season, especially after losing a lot of defensive pieces like Dean Huijsen. Right now is a starter at Real Madrid and has been playing at a high level for them. So losing a lot of key pieces and defense, I wasn't expecting them to be this good and competing for a Champions League spot. But a lot of players have risen up to the occasion, and Tyler Adams is one of them. So I think for this World Cup cycle, I do think he should be the captain. Tanner Tessman out of Lyon has had a pretty decent season so far. I liked what I saw of him last camp. A lot seemed like a much more mobile player when compared to when he played with Venezia and Serie A. So I'm excited to see both Tyler Adams and Tanner Tessman playing in this pivot role in this 3-4-2-1 system. And Aiden Morris, although he was kind of mid against Ecuador, but it was his first game back and a cut in some time. So I do understand he might get used to the new system. And hopefully he does better this camp. Christian Roldan has had a very poor USMNT career, but considering that he has had a pretty decent season and he had two assists against Australia, although the goal he was responsible for, but I do think he should at least receive another chance. But really, these other two options I cannot forgive for Poch. I cannot let those slide. Sean Zawatsky and Sebastian Berhalter. Sebastian Berhalter had an entire summer to prove himself, and he didn't take the chance. And Sean Zawatsky, mid MLS player. Like, I don't understand why you bring both of them. Like Christian Roldan, considering that he had two assists against Australia, I can let that slide. But bringing both Zawatsky and Berhalter, I do not understand at all. And also, you'll have Johnny Cardoso back at home. He might be coming off an injury, but the guy is a proven La Liga player. I know his USMNT career has been poor, but whose USMNT career used to be poor? Malik Tillman, and he impressed during the summer during the Gold Cup and has been pretty good for the USMNT since. So with players that have that much talent, eventually they're going to be showing that quality with the national team when they play more games and gather more confidence. So you should have at least brought Johnny Cardoso here as an option, but you didn't. Now let's go with the wingers and tens. And for this position, Poch has only brought three players in, which is pretty interesting to me. But if you guys didn't know, Pulisic, Sendejas, and Malik Tillman are all out, and all of them would have been good options for this position. But all three are out for this FIFA window, which is very unfortunate. So who has Poch brought in? He has brought in Brendan Aronson, Diego Luna, and Gio Reyna. So this is practically only tense because none of these options can play on the wing. Maybe Luna and Aronson can somewhat function as wingers, but they're not really wingers. They're more players that want to play in the half spaces. But the good thing here is that Gio Reyna is back. You can say whatever you want about his club form, that he hasn't played a lot of minutes, but Gio Reyna is a player that has always found a way to deliver for the USMNT, and I think it's ridiculous that there's a lot of people over there on social media that say Roldan is a better option for Gio Reyna, that he's done more for the national team, because Gio Reyna is a player that is always clutch with the USMNT, especially during tournaments. The guy is one of the most talented players that we have, especially in the attacking position. So you have to bring him here. You have to get him involved with the team in some way or another. So I'm glad to see that Gio Reyna is back. But I heard Poch doesn't have a lot of plans for him this camp, so I do hope Gio Reyna does work hard, that he does work his ass off during training camp, because if he's going to have a chance to play in the World Cup, he has to impress Poch this window. Luna and Aronson, when it comes to playing against high level opposition, both have struggled, so this will be a good test for both. Don't understand why Poch didn't bring in someone like Owen Wolf or Brian Gutierrez. Both had very good seasons in MLS, and I think both Wolf and Brian Gutierrez had better seasons than Luna in MLS. That's just my that's just my opinion. That's just my take. But you can say that Diego Luna is probably like the best option on his team, while Owen Wolf and Brian Gutierrez have more options to work alongside of them. But I do think Wolf and Gutierrez had better seasons in MLS. And considering that Gutierrez just got his Mexican passport, although I do think he only did it just to play in Liga MX, but I think that should have been an alarm for the USMT just to call him in for this camp, and especially because he's a player that has a good future. So that's just my take. Now let's finish off this video with the strikers, and it's really good to see that the three best options at this position were brought in for this camp. I do think Ballo right now is leading the race as that starting number 9 for the World Cup. He's been the best player for the USMT, in my opinion, during the friendlies after the Gold Cup. So I do think that number 9 position is his. Ricardo Pepi, excited to see him back with the USMT after like a lot, after what, it's been a long time, because the last time like I felt I saw Ricardo Pepi was during those Nations League matches against Jamaica, where he scored a golazo. So excited to see him back. Haji writes, a player that always scores big goals for the USMNT. He scored a brace against Australia, so another good option for this position. For right now, I do think Ballo is leading the race as that number 9 for the USMT for the World Cup, but I do think he's going to have a competition at this position. And it's pretty. I'm interested to see if Poch does use two number nines, considering that he brought in very few options as number 10s and wingers. And I'm interested to see if Haji Wright does play as a winger or as a false nine or someone behind the striker, because he's also someone who can play behind the striker or out wide. And considering that there's few options at that position for this camp, I do think Poch can play him over there. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.